This morning I'm going to make up one of my favorite snacks. Sometimes we have this along with breakfast with some fried eggs or something. And sometimes I have a smoothie for breakfast and then I just feel like I want a little something heavier to chew to throw into my belly. So I like to make, I don't know what you'd call it, sweet potato hash browns with chipotle powder. I forgot to get my chipotle powder out here. Alright. I've got this chipotle powder. It's Frontier brand and I found it at Whole Foods. Happens to be organic, but it's just ground up chipotle peppers. That's all that's in it. So make sure you check the ingredients and make sure you're getting just a single ingredient product. You don't want to mix with all sorts of additives and anti-caking agents and all of that. Just smoked jalapenos, which is what a chipotle is, ground up into a powder. Or if you can't find this, a lot of times in the produce section or the ethnic section you can actually find dried chipotles or dried smoked jalapenos, and you could grind them up yourself in a blender. I've done that before with just my regular cheap Oster blender. Alright, this is a sweet potato or a yam. I don't remember the difference and I don't remember which one I purchased, but they work out just the same. You could use a potato peeler and get the skin off that way, but yams are pretty hard and I find it kind of inconvenient. I gotta grab my compost bucket. I find it kind of inconvenient to use the peeler, kind of inefficient, although you probably waste a little bit more this way. But especially with them being so uneven and all these lumps and bumps, I just find it easier to cut those parts off. So, call me wasteful, call me what you will. I had to grab my compost bucket because I've been keeping it in the fridge because the house has been getting kind of warm and it tends to stink. Alright, so I usually cut it in half just to make it easier. And I go down the sides, trying not to waste much of the edible orange part and just getting rid of the skin. And then, the smaller you dice this up, the more quickly it will cook up in the pan. And if you've never cut up a sweet potato or a yam before, they're a lot harder than a white potato. So a sharp knife would really come in handy. And I like to dice mine pretty finely, like so, just into little dices, but do as you wish. Alright, so I'm just going to finish chopping this up, skinning the other side of this, and dicing it all up, and then I'll meet you over at the stove to cook it up. Alright, I've got it all diced up here, and we're ready to get cooking on the stove. I've got a large skillet, and I'm going to turn the burner on pretty high and let that heat up for a couple minutes. And then I'm going to put in some olive oil, or coconut oil, enough to coat the bottom of this pan. And you can see my coconut oil right now is a clear liquid. But coconut oil is kind of a funny thing. If you're not familiar, at above 76 degrees it's liquid like this. And at below 76 degrees it turns into more of a solid texture. Coconut oil actually has specific properties to it. It's supposed to help you metabolize fat, actually burn off fat by eating this kind of fat. So it also adds a nice slight coconutty flavor to anything that you cook. We're actually so used to it now that we don't even notice the coconut flavor in most things that we use it in, but it can take a little bit to get used to for some people. So while the pan is heating, I already told you about the chipotle powder, so after the potatoes are all the way cooked up, we're going to add that and some freshly ground sea salt. And that will be it. So, let's see, our pan's warming up here. I'm going to have to set the camera down because I can't spoon the oil in with one hand. Alright, so I'm going to just spoon that in. About yay much. And if you don't get the right amount in there, no worries. If you don't get enough, you can always add some more once you get the potatoes in there and stir them around. I'm going to let this get heated up for a minute. Then I'm going to dump my potatoes in and I'll meet you back here. I'm going to wait for the oil to start sizzling a little. Alright, it's feeling pretty hot. I'm going to go ahead and dump these in there. You can hear it sizzling. You can play around with the heat. This sounds like it could use a little more heat actually. It's not sizzling as much as I would like. I don't have all day for this to cook. They also seem a little bit dry, like they could use a little more oil. These sweet potatoes really suck up the moisture. If it seems a little dry and you don't want to add any more oil, or you just want it to cook a little faster, you could also throw on the lid. I'm not sure how long these take, but you'll know when they're done because they'll be nice and tender and they'll be browned up a little bit. So I'll try to keep track of how long it takes and meet you back here when they're done. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more oil. Doing this one-handed isn't the easiest. Barely getting any spoon here. Now that's more what I like. You can see it, there's kind of some oil in there. It's not all sucked up in the potatoes. Sorry if I'm making anyone dizzy. Trying to hold the camera in my left hand and watch what I'm doing. Let's see how they're coming along. See how they're starting to brown up? Taste test reveals. Still too firm. I'm just going to try to add the oil this way. It's going to leak all over my jar, but there we go. That's more the amount of oil that will work. Because you don't want to burn them. I meant to say when I very first put the potatoes in here and I was stirring them all around, in case it's not obvious, you want to get them all coated in the oil. And I should have added more oil at the time, I was just being lazy. Alright, so it's been about 5 minutes total, and I've had the lid on the entire time except taking the lid off a couple times to stir it up. And they're tender enough for me, I just tasted one. So, I'm going to shut the stove off and call it good. Can remove them from the heat here. And I'm just going to add some of the Chipotle powder. And if you don't have a Whole Foods or a health food store near you that carries this, you can get Frontier brand online. You get kind of used to, or you'll grow to know kind of how much Chipotle powder to put in there. It's pretty spicy, so you don't want to go too crazy. You can always add more, but you can't take it out, sort of thing. Maybe don't even add as much as I just did the first time that you make it, because you don't want to ruin it for yourself and have none to eat because it's so spicy that you can't handle it. And they might be good just like this, actually. I guess I've never tried. They are. But I like to add a little salt. And I'm a creature of habit, so go ahead and add a little now. Throw the camera down. This is a two-handed operation. Salt. Stir that up. And then, how I enjoy these is with ketchup on top. This is Annie's Naturals brand. It's an organic ketchup. It's the only store-bought ketchup that I've found in my town that I will buy because it doesn't have any mystery ingredients. Everything's self-explanatory and I don't have to bother calling the manufacturer to find out what's in here. It has tomato paste, white vinegar, water, sugar, salt, onion, allspice, which if you didn't know, that is one individual spice from the allspice plant, and clove. That's it. No words like natural flavor or the generic word spices or corn syrup or anything like that. So, not saying it's a health food, it still has sugar and things, but at least I know what it is, and it doesn't have any hidden sources of MSG, and it's safe for me to eat. I won't have any kind of reaction. So, good to go. I don't eat it every day, but when I'm going to have ketchup, that's the one I enjoy. There is a homemade ketchup recipe also in the cookbook if you want to save some money, because it won't cost you much more than just a can of tomato paste. Or if you don't have a means of getting this ketchup wherever you live, because this is $3 to $4 a bottle depending where you get it. So it's not exactly economical, but I have very few things I can use for convenience in my life, so I take anything I can get. Plus, we really, really love the taste. Alright, so there it is. Snack time.